Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live here on 12 Ounce Sports and our YouTube channel, which, of course, is 12 Ounce Sports. So we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can get the latest in all of our programming. We've got some great shows on the network, of course. And you can catch us also on our Roku channel, which we are live up on your smart TV. And again, I mentioned with our 12 Ounce Sports YouTube channel, all of our great shows, Prime Time with Philly Pete. We've got Michael Caravalis with the only daily indoor lacrosse program in the country. That, of course, is the Daily Dive. We've got all of our stuff with the Rome show in the morning every day at 7 a.m. And, of course, our shows here with the ACHA Power Play and the Captain Lou Extravaganza. And off and on YouTube, our extravagant few minutes where we keep you up to date on all the things that are going on live throughout the sports weekend or the sports day, the sports landscape at the moment. So we invite you to take a look and a listen to all of those. And we will keep you informed. A lot of fun. We've got some great live sports that we are doing at the collegiate level as well. A lot of stuff in the works too. So again, keep an eye on us, what we've got going on here in the coming months, the weeks, months, days ahead, right here on 12 Ounce Sports. Big night planned for you tonight. It's going to be a solo run tonight here on the Extravaganza, but we've got a lot to talk about in the world of sports, of course, here locally in outside the palatial studios here in Grand Ledge, Michigan. It obviously wasn't a banner weekend for us Lions fans. Not going to lie. It was a tough night's sleep Saturday night. And I watched the football games on Sunday, but I didn't watch any sports talk shows until maybe Monday afternoon. I caught up with the Rod Peterson show. And again, I want to thank him too for having me on his broadcast today. It was great catching up with Rod. He does a great show. Catch him on YouTube every afternoon from 12 to 2 on his network. But it was a tough few days. But the Lions ran into a buzzsaw. That is the Washington Commanders. And I got to tell you, you got to give credit where credit is due. And the Commanders came out flying. Jaden Daniels, he doesn't play like a rookie. Played flawlessly in that game. And again, our first question is, can he keep it up against Philadelphia? We'll talk about that as well throughout the night. How about the other games? Philadelphia beating the Rams in the snow on Sunday. And the Buffalo Bills got past one hurdle, the Baltimore Ravens. And, they're going to take on Kansas City, who beat the Houston Texans to open up the playoff weekend. Also, this weekend, all hail the Big Ten as Ohio State wins the national championship. Jumped out to a monster lead against Notre Dame, 31-7 at one point in the third quarter. Then they hung on, got a little close, but then that big third down and 11 play. So Ryan Day, he's a national champion now, and it keeps the Big Ten, the Kings of the Mountain. Well, according to some people they are, and according to some others, it's still the SEC no matter what happened in the national championship. But hey, got to give Ohio State their due. Got to give them their flowers. So congratulations to them. We'll talk about that and where that leaves the state of college football with the national championship playoff, the college football playoff. Does it need to be tweaked? Who knows? And other stuff going on, of course, another bit of news here involving our team down the road, down on I-96, down in the Detroit area. We got the Lions need to look for a new offensive and defensive coordinator as Ben Johnson. And this afternoon, Aaron Glenn took the job as the head coach of the New York Jets. So Dan Campbell's going to have to find himself new leaders on both sides of the ball. And we'll talk about, did Ben Johnson do the right thing? Did he leave Detroit high and dry? Was his focus totally on the game? We'll talk about that throughout the night here on the show. And, of course, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. They announced their class of 2025. 3 of them going in. Ichiro Suzuki, of course, no-brainer there. I don't know why he didn't get 100% of the vote. I'm never going to figure that out with the Hall of Fame voting committee. There's always one person that, just has to throw a wrench in it or not give the guy their flowers. But we'll talk about that. And, of course, Billy Wagner and CC Sabathia get in as a first-time, or CC Sabathia gets in as a first-time balloter, which, I could really get stinky on this, and I might a little bit later on in the show. But he's got a lot of numbers similar to a pitcher here in the Detroit area from back in the 80s that it took the Veterans Committee to get him in, which I think was a travesty. And it just maybe goes to my theory that if you played on the East Coast for the New York Yankees or the Boston Red Sox or for the Dodgers, you have numbers similar to this, you get in on the first ballot. And Billy Wagner gets in, of course, a good reliever from Houston fame, the Houston Astros, 422 career saves. He gets in on his 10th try, I believe, on the Hall of Fame ballot. So we got a lot to talk about there. The Red Wings, if we've got time for that. The Todd Fathers now dropped 3 straight. It was a tough road swing for the Red Wings. They lost last night to the Flyers 2-1. They actually got some decent goaltending, but unfortunately that overtime goal that just sneaked over the line with about 27 seconds left in overtime, it got nudged just for safekeeping, if you will. But they were able to get that goal pass. So the Red Wings now 21-5 find themselves, I think, 5 points out of the standings real quick. Let me take a quick peek on the wild card standings. 5 points out of the standings. They're even now with games in hand on Ottawa and Montreal, who hold the top 2 wild card spots in the NHL in the East. So we'll give you a look at the NHL standings as well. So we got a lot to talk about here tonight, and we'll get right to it. But we're going to take a quick break. When we do that, we'll come back and take a look at the NFL divisional round playoffs and get you set for the AFC and the NFC championship game. You are watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza. It's live right here on 12 Ounce Sports.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them. Yeah. Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
That's right. We are your ticket broker, which means that we don't charge some of those exorbitant prices for the games that you see on some of these other websites, these secondary markets. That's tickets.12ouncesports.com or 12ouncesports.com/tickets, however you want to do it. The easiest way to do it is just go to 12ouncesports.com, check out our website, and just hit the tickets tab, and it'll take you right there. We've got tickets for the conference championship weekends coming up, or games this weekend, rather. Kansas City and Buffalo at Arrowhead. 6:30 is total leather there from Kansas City. And then Philadelphia hosting Washington in a rubber match of that season series. We've got tickets for those. NHL games, college basketball, college hockey, you name it, we've got it right here on 12 Ounce Sports. And so make sure that you keep an eye on that. And so we'll let you know on that. So we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back here on 12 Ounce Sports. Don't go anywhere.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them. Yeah. Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ouncesports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
Yeah, again, I apologize about that. We had something we had to take care of right away. But again, we are your ticket broker. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets. And, we talked about the Lions losing their offensive and defensive coordinators as Dave Fleck chiming in, watching us. He's a fellow Munising Mustang. I know he's down where the weather's warm, which around the country right now, there isn't a whole lot of that. But he reminds us that Detroit lost their D-line coach as well. So it is going to be a regrouping for the Lions, definitely, with losing the coordinators. And I got a feeling that this probably isn't going to be the last coach that they lose, too. I mean, they could lose, I know there's talk Hank Fraley might be going, Mark Brunell possibly going to the Jets. So this is what happens with the Lions. We'll get right into that. It's funny is, you think about where Detroit has been, and this is new territory for it's unfamiliar territory for Detroit Lions fans. You've suffered, as long as I have, some longer. And to think that a Detroit Lion assistant coach has actually been poached or hired away to be a head coach for another team, I've tried to look it up. That's never happened before for the Detroit Lions. And so, I mean, that's something that we have to get used to. And that's a byproduct of being a good team, a good organization. And again, that's something that we, as Detroit Lion fans, of people in Detroit, we have never been familiar with, because it's, without the smattering of victories, playoff appearances here and there since 1970. We had one in 70. Detroit had the strike shortened year 82, I think it was. And then 83, they lost on the Monty Clark prayer for the field goal. And again, in 91, won a playoff game, and a couple here and there, then going to the playoffs 3 times in the 2010s and obviously not winning. And then now this is something that Detroit is not used to. And so, yeah, that's where I listen to the fan base here in Detroit, and it kind of, a lot of them are upset. They're pissed because Ben Johnson went to Chicago. Now, the timing isn't the greatest. Obviously, that, they lose Saturday to the Reds or the Commanders. And then on Monday, he hires in as coach of the Bears. It's, that's, I think, has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way here in the Detroit area. And I don't begrudge Ben Johnson for going. He could have, I'm surprised he didn't take a job last year. Sounds like that he would have been the Commanders head coach if he wanted it. And I know the Commanders right now aren't upset with that, because they got Dan Quinn and they're going to the NFC Championship game. So again, I listen to the fans and I see the posts on social media, and I'm sorry, I don't agree with it. I have no issue with Ben Johnson going to Chicago. It's like Dan Campbell said today, next man up. Detroit's got enough talent. I think they're not going to have an issue getting back to the playoffs. Are they going to be 15-2 with the number 1 seed? I doubt it. I think they can win 11 and 12 games. Now, Detroit's got a brutal schedule. Their road schedule is ridiculous. They got to go to Kansas City. They got to go to Baltimore. They got to go to LA to take on the Rams. I mean, besides the 3 games in their division. And then I know the other ones, it's not easy. I think they got to go to Pittsburgh or Cincinnati. I mean, it's intense. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they end up with a record next year. But we'll talk more about that down the road. So, well, let's talk about that Lions game, though. We might as well start right off with it, or keep up with it. It was a surprise. Washington did win. They won convincingly, 45-31. I say convincingly because after the second quarter, it just didn't seem like Detroit really knew what hit them. And I think it was just a combination. It was the perfect storm. And I've said this, and I said this on social media, and I'll continue to say it. I don't blame injuries one bit. Not one bit. I think that they just got outplayed. And I got to give credit to Dan Quinn and his coaching staff. That was a perfect game plan. They caught Aaron Glenn with his blitzes on defense. They had no answer. And I talked, I was on a couple of shows this week, on our preview show Monday with El Jefe, the Godfather, the gamble guy. I told him, I said, if you remember in the second quarter, that look on Aaron Glenn's face said it all. He'd look like he was hit by he got run over by a bulldozer. He looked like he didn't know what was going on. And they couldn't recover. The fourth down plays that they made, Washington made, the timely passes that Jaden Daniels made, I mean, it was incredible. And then, of course, Jared Goff had one of his worst games. He fumbled on that one drive that could have put Detroit up 2 scores. Who knows what happened there? And then the pick 6, which, maybe, you know what? And I don't want to hear about the helmet-to-helmet hit because Detroit got a penalty their way right after that on that phantom face mask. So they all even out, right? They all even out. But Goff didn't have one of his better games. And I don't think that Ben Johnson called one of his better games. And I said it before. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. The trick plays caught up to Detroit. Why they threw that flea flicker pass with Jamison Williams in the fourth quarter down 2 scores, I have no idea. Now, the last interception by Goff, I don't know, that was desperation time, right? I mean, it was just the perfect storm and the perfect game plan by Washington. And you got to give the Commanders kudos. I mean, they came in prepared, playing on house money, no pressure. Detroit never being in this position before with a number 1 seed and a 15-2 record. I'm not going to say they were rusty. I'm not going to say that. They still put 31 points up on the board. Normally, that would be enough to win a game. But when your defense can't stop the other team's offense, I mean, they punted once, I believe, and that was it. And so I got to give credit to Washington. And, we talked about it. Jaden Daniels, he doesn't look like a rookie, does he? I mean, that game against Tampa, he played fantastically. And then he played flawlessly against Detroit. And then, of course, Detroit held him numerous times to fourth down, couldn't stop a fourth down attempt, except the one where Marcus Mariota, I don't know what the hell that call was. And I thought maybe with that momentum, Detroit might be able to seize on it. But again, Daniels he wasn't flustered. They got the ball back, went right down. He looked so calm and collected on the sideline, focused. And during the game, my hat's off to him. I think Washington's got their next quarterback, their franchise quarterback for the next decade at least. And, they're an exciting team to watch. And give them all the credit in the world. That was a beauty of a game for them. If my team wasn't playing the Commanders, I would have thoroughly enjoyed it. But it was weird. I was more disappointed probably Monday or even Sunday night after watching that Philadelphia and Rams game because I thought those are 2 teams Detroit had a chance to beat. Now, I know last week I said on the show I did not want to face the Rams if I'm a Detroit fan for a 3rd straight time at home. But I watched that game and I thought, boy, it ifs and buts. I get it. Ifs and buts and candy or nuts. I thought Detroit, those were teams that Detroit might be able to handle. But we'll never know. So now the Lions, they got to start playing for 2025, as I mentioned, with new coordinators and the whole bit. The Commanders get to move on. They get to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. And they hung on to beat LA. I like the game plan of Philadelphia. I still think they should pound the rock with Barkley. Obviously, the first question you ask, can Washington's defense stop them? Can they stop Jalen Hurts? Is Hurts underrated? A lot of the talk going into the game was on Matt Stafford. He's had a resurgence. This LA team is underrated. They're coming on. They had a big win against Minnesota. They're on a roll. And I'm sorry, but weather happens. They still move the ball pretty good. But Matt Stafford couldn't get it done when he needed to towards the end. I mean, they had a good comeback, but he piled up a lot of yards. that game looked like it was well under control, and Philadelphia took their foot off the gas pedal, and it almost burned them. You can only get away with that so many times. They're not going to be able to get away with that against Washington. This is going to be a different animal of a game, too. These two are bitter division rivals. And I can see how this could turn into a fun game to watch, too. It's going to be Jaden Daniels against Philadelphia's defense and Washington's defense being able to stop the running game of Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, for that matter. Now, Washington struggled against Jahmyr Gibbs throughout the game. Detroit was able to utilize him. They probably should have utilized him more against that Washington defense. But I don't know. That's going to be the matchup that I'm going to keep an eye on. The number one matchup in my eyes is going to be Washington's defense being able to neutralize Saquon Barkley and having Hurts beat them with, up top maybe with Devontae Smith and the likes of that, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown. So that's going to be a matchup that I'm going to keep an eye on right there, though, is going to be the Washington defense against Philadelphia offense. I think Washington will be able to put points up on the board. And one thing that we haven't had to see yet from Jaden Daniels is how is he going to react if they do have a turnover? So they're on a roll. Momentum's big. Yeah, anybody who's a sports fan knows momentum's big. You get that mentality that you can win anytime. Confidence and momentum are huge in the postseason. You see it in baseball. You especially see it in hockey. You get a hot goaltender, you can ride him right to the Stanley Cup Finals. You get a hot quarterback. He feels invincible. He can make the plays. He stands in the pocket, or he's able to maneuver around and make the plays like Daniels can. They're going to run a lot of RPO, and that's something Detroit couldn't handle. Detroit's got a history of not being able to handle a mobile quarterback. They got exposed, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. So it's going to be a fun matchup. That's the opening game Sunday. Philadelphia is a 6-point favorite right now against the Commanders at home. Man, that's a lot of points. Not surprising. If I were to have to bet on this game right now and I had to either take the points or lay the points, I'd probably lay the points because it's at home. But it's going to be a dandy matchup, I think. And it sounds like the weather's not going to be that bad. This frigid vortex is going to be gone by this weekend. At least I know here in Michigan, it's going to be 30 degrees this weekend, which is going to feel like a heat wave after -6 this morning. So it's hard to believe, right? So it's going to be a dandy matchup to open up the game on conference championship Sunday. Two good games, especially the nightcap. Well, let's get into the AFC matchup. Actually, let's take a break. We come back, we'll get into the AFC, then we'll talk about the Big Ten championship game or the college football championship game. We got that and a whole lot to talk about here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. It's live right here on 12 Ounce Sports and the 12 Ounce Sports channel on YouTube. Again, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You get all of our great shows. They're all archived. You get our morning show. You get Michael's show. You get This What Happened with El Jefe, the Gamble Guy, on Thursday. All of our live games that we've been broadcasting throughout the fall and the winter. That's right here on 12 Ounce Sports and on YouTube. And, of course, our Roku channel that you can see 24/7 on your smart TV. But right now, you are watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We'll be right back.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Captain Lou Extravaganza here on 12 Ounce Sports. And again, our thanks to our sponsors, of course, on MyBookie and your ticket broker. That is 12 Ounce Sports. And again, check out the websites of both. If you want to go to the AFC or the NFC Championship game, we've got tickets for both those games right here at 12ouncesports.com. Just hit the ticket tab and it'll send you right there. Use the promo code 12 ounce and you'll get an extra 5% off of your purchase. And again, they're going to be two great games. We talked about the NFC. We talked about the Lions as we approach the bottom of the hour here tonight. Want to talk a little bit about the AFC. Kansas City, here we come. 7th straight year. They're going to go to the AFC Championship game, and they did that by beating Houston. Kansas City, the number 1 seed in the AFC again. They outlasted Houston. It was a good game. They ended up winning 23-14, I believe it was, a last-minute safety, covering the spread, if you will. And again, I don't know. It's they find ways to win. They really haven't blown anybody out. The closest thing to a blowout that Kansas City's gotten to is when they got beaten the last game of the year by Denver with their second and third stringers in when they lost 38-0. You know, how about you? I got to ask you, are you suffering from Kansas City fatigue yet? Are you ready for new blood in the Super Bowl or just anybody else besides Kansas City? You know, it seems to be the growing trend with the fan base in the country. I think 98%, unless you're from Missouri, or you've got relatives or you're a relative of somebody playing on that team, you're going to root for Kansas City. You know, but it's what, you know, they're like Ric Flair. That's what they remind me of back in his heyday. They'll do anything to win. And they're not cheating, but, you know, on the surface, it looks like they're getting preferential treatment, especially Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I look at some of the calls that went in his favor on Saturday and throughout the season. And again, I want to preface this. This did not cost the Lions the win, but how about that helmet-to-helmet shot that Jared Goff took? And nothing got flagged there. I mean, if that would have happened to Mahomes, that guy would have got kicked out. That's just been the trend. But Patrick Mahomes, he's getting the job done, even if he's getting preferential treatment. They're still winning the games. Houston was not able to figure it out. I think Houston was lucky enough to play a Los Angeles Chargers team the week before that was down. And they were down a few players. I mean, the Texans defense, they rose to the occasion against the Chargers. And like I said, I thought they kind of handled Kansas City. They held them at bay for a while, but Kansas City found a way to win. And, you know, they got a great game out of Travis Kelce. And he seems to shine when it matters the most in the playoffs, and that's when they need him. You know, they've got Isaiah Pacheco back. You know, they've got Worthy. It's not like Kansas City doesn't have the weapons. So they're going to obviously be a formidable foe right now in that game. It's going to be a great matchup on Sunday night, a great way to end the weekend with what should be a phenomenal football game. So my question is, if you're Houston, is this Houston's ceiling? That's what, you know, I kind of was thinking about this earlier today. They're a young team. You know, they got CJ Stroud. Now they got Joe Mixon. They've got Will Anderson Jr. on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a young coach in D'Amico Ryan. But seriously, the thing that concerns me about Houston, and you could say that about a lot of teams, but the injury bug really hit them. They lose Tank Dell. I mean, Nico Collins was out for a lot of the year. I mean, can they rely on them consistently? Is this team going to be able to take them to the next level? Dalton Schultz is a very serviceable tight end with, for the Texans. But is he going to be – I don't know. I mean, what does Houston need to do better to get to that next level? I mean, are they the byproduct of right now just bad luck with superpowers, if you will, of Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, and to a certain extent, I mean, are they going to be the fourth fiddle until a lot of these teams start having their quarterbacks retire? I mean, would Houston be better off in the NFC? I don't know. They've got a good young quarterback. Is he a superstar quarterback? I don't know. I mean, what can they do different? They've got some blocks in place, but I think, this Buffalo team is young, and I think this Baltimore team is getting younger. I think they're pretty good. Speaking of that game, what a game that was. Baltimore and Buffalo to end divisional weekend up in Buffalo. Now, I got good friends that are on both sides of the ball on this one, and it was tough. Back and forth they went. It looked like Buffalo had this game well in hand, but then Lamar Jackson, you can't count him out. You just can't count him out. And obviously, the guy that I feel the most sorry for in this one, is Mark Andrews. I mean, he's been battling injuries off and on. He had a whale of a game, caught the game-tying touchdown pass, and then dropped that 2-pointer. And I was telling the Godfather on our preview show on Monday. I mean, all I could think of was Jackie Smith for the Cowboys against the Steelers, 45 years ago in that Super Bowl or whenever it was, almost 50 years ago now. That's crazy, isn't it? It was back in the mid to late 70s. Whenever they played Dallas in the Super Bowl back in the 70s, when he dropped that touchdown pass in the end zone. This would have tied it up, potentially sent it to overtime. It's funny because I was thinking to myself, all right, how much time does he have? Is there any chance Buffalo can get down to kick a field goal? I already had the 2-point as a given, and I thought he caught it, then he dropped it, and it just, your heart sinks. You hate to see a game end like that, but it was such a well-fought game. Just a great game to watch. And these are two quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I mean, what else can you say about them? I know the MVP vote is not supposed to be decided, with a playoff game, and I don't think it was. I think the votes are in anyways. I'm not a voter, obviously, for it. But I looked at the ebb and flow of that game, and, at first I thought Baltimore was going to beat them at home, but then Buffalo just took command. They took control of that game, and it just looked like Buffalo had it in hand from like about the 10-minute mark of the second quarter all the way through to the end of the game. And then Baltimore started making the comeback. And then again, like I said, when Buffalo went down and scored, I thought game over. And then Baltimore got it and they went right down. And it was such an exciting drive. Those are so thrilling to watch, especially when you don't have a dog in the fight. And then to see them actually get that game tying to cut it to within 2 and then get the 2-point play dropped. Your heart sinks for them. It really does. And I felt so bad for Baltimore. And you can see the frustration in Lamar Jackson's face after the game. He's tired of getting close but not being able to get over the hump to get to the Super Bowl, either against Buffalo or Cincinnati or Kansas City. Now, obviously not getting to play Kansas City in the championship game. You can start to see the frustration a little bit in the eyes of Lamar Jackson. Missing Zay Flowers obviously was huge. But they've got Derrick Henry. He'll be there next year. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I don't see Pittsburgh beating them next year in that division. Cincinnati, you can't trust Cincinnati. They got to learn how to win in September. They got to learn how to win in early October. So Baltimore knows how to do that. They're always going to be there. But they're like Houston. You got to start asking yourself a little bit, are they going to get up to the top? Do they have what it takes? I mean, it's one of those things where you got to learn how to win. And it harkens me back to the Lions. I hate to keep bringing them back up, but the Lions, it's funny. Somebody brought it up. I don't know where I was talking on social media or whatever. It reminded them of the 95-96 Detroit Red Wings. For those of you that were around back then, Detroit hadn't won a Stanley Cup in like 42 years. They got so close. In 95, they lost in the finals to the New Jersey Devils after the strike shortened year in 4 straight. 95-96, they made it to the semifinals and got beat by Colorado, who ended up winning the cup. Then they got laser focused after that. There was nobody stopping the Red Wings. They played the following year in a rematch in the conference finals with Colorado and beat them. Then they won the cup, smoked the Flyers. It's kind of what the Lions kind of are taking that step. The wake-up call. Not, with the Red Wings getting the President's Cup trophy and not doing anything with it. Maybe that's what it takes. Maybe the Lions need a little more adversity. Now, they had plenty with injuries, but maybe this will serve as even a bigger motivator now when they thought they should have been there and they weren't. This is kind of what Baltimore is. I think they felt they should have been there. Now, granted, they were playing a Buffalo team that, to me, is a team of destiny. And it just was such a close game. Just an amazing game. And that's why I like to watch football right there. That's what I like to watch sports, when you get two great teams going at it and only one survives. It's a shame one's got to lose. Now, to me, like I said last week, I thought this is probably the better. That game Sunday night will be a better matchup, I think, to watch than the game coming up Sunday. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be. So it begs to ask the question: does Buffalo have what it takes to get past Kansas City and get to the Super Bowl? Obviously, everybody's asking that, right? Do they have what it takes to get past Kansas City to get to the Super Bowl? I think they do. This is the year. I think if any year is the year, this is the year. Again, it's going to come down to their defense, being able to stop Patrick Mahomes, containing him. He's still mobile. They can stop Pacheco, but the one thing that I worry about with Buffalo is their interior defense across the middle, and I think that's where Kansas City could exploit them. Travis Kelce could have another monster game. Worthy, Pacheco. That's the one weakness I think Buffalo may have. I think on the other side of the ball, can Kansas City stop Josh Allen? Can they stop James Cook? Nobody talks about James Cook, by the way. You had Derrick Henry. You got Isaiah Pacheco. Everybody talks about them. James Cook is like the unsung hero for the Buffalo Bills. Solid game last week again. Solid. You talk about Saquon Barkley as one of the top backs in the league, as you should, because he is. But I think James Cook flies under the radar when you got Josh Allen. And, you don't have the big names on the receivers. You've got Kincaid and you got Dawson Knox is still good for some receptions. You've got, Keon Coleman, a big playmaker for Buffalo. But James Cook kind of flies under the radar. He's going to be a key in that matchup on Sunday. They can get the ground game going. They can get time of possession. I think they got a shot. I think Buffalo's got a good shot to win. I think they're a 1.5 underdog. I'll have to look it up real quick here. I'll look it up. Just bear with me for a second here. We'll see. I can pick it up real quick here. I should know this. Conference championship. Kansas City's a 2-point favorite. And the line on the Philadelphia game, by the way, is up to 6.5. So that keeps going up. Well, if it keeps going up, I might have changed my mind. We'll have to consult with Presley when we get our Presley's parlay for this weekend on an extravagant few minutes. Make sure you stick around for that, by the way. A little side note, 2-0 again this weekend, 4-0. If you've been riding the tails with Presley's picks, 5-0, actually, because we had the parlay for the championship game with Notre Dame and Ohio State, where we told you to stay within money line and Notre Dame plus 14.5 at plus 106. If you did that, you got yourself a few more dog biscuits and pizza. I'm telling you, we'll have to keep an eye on that. But Kansas City's a 2-point favorite right now at home against Buffalo. So that's up in the air on that one. I'm leaning towards Buffalo. I'm not going to lie. And again, what is it going to take to unseat Kansas City? They're going to get some calls. Let's face it. They're going to get some calls. That's been the MO all year. And I'm not going to blame their wins or credit their wins all on just calls. But they're going to get them. I think that, they just got to be able to overcome that. Overcome the Kansas City, the fan base. So I think it's going to be a great game. There's going to be 2 very good games on Sunday. Get your pizza, get your popcorn, whatever you do, your munchies to watch the games. Maybe nachos, whatever you want to get. Make sure you get those for the game Sunday. I think it's going to be a good day to watch football. So yeah, those 2 good games on Sunday. To the Lions, to the Rams, to the Texans, and to the Ravens. Close, unfortunately, doesn't get it where you need to be. A lot of questions for each of the 4 teams. The big question for the Rams. What's Matthew Stafford going to do? Is he going to come back for another year? They've got some great weapons. I think they're a young team. What about Sean McVay? Is he ready to make one more run? Is Cooper Kupp going to be on the Rams next year? He's got a big cap hit. But they've got a young team. And I think, I don't know, there's a lot of questions. Obviously, Matt Stafford wasn't going to commit. Those are some of the questions that I know reporters have to ask that right after a game. But people say things in the heat of the moment. It's like asking Aaron Rodgers after his last game as a Jet, are you coming back? When they're going to take time to think about it, especially with Rodgers not knowing who his coach is going to be. How well is he going to get along with Aaron Glenn? All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about the the college football championship game, Notre Dame and Ohio State. We'll do that in 60 seconds. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza right here on 12 Ounce Sports.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them. Yeah. Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
That's right. We are your ticket broker. And we've got all your tickets right here. I was just checking the prices for the NFC and the AFC championship game. And the tickets for the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles lower bowl, they're going about a C note right now in Philadelphia. It's crazy. But if you want to go to the AFC championship game between Kansas City and Buffalo, you can get some tickets for around $250 on 12ouncesports.com/tickets. So tickets are available. We are a ticket broker. Like we said, we don't charge those fees you see on some of those secondary markets. 12ouncesports.com/tickets. All right, congratulations are in order as we go over to the College football side of things here. How about the Ohio State Buckeyes? They are indeed national champions, first time in 10 years. They keep the stranglehold on the college football championship trophy in the Big Ten. They overcome that loss to Michigan Thanksgiving weekend, and they just steamroll through the playoffs. Tennessee, no problem. They had obviously a little bit of a problem with Texas, but they were able to overcome that and then jump out to a monster lead against Notre Dame on Monday night and hang on to win 34-23. So they cover the spread, which I know all the Ohio State bettors are happy for. But more important than that, Ryan Day is a national champion. And Ohio State now can carry the banner for the Big Ten. Now, the big question is, and we asked this to El Jefe, the gamble guy, our resident Ohio State Buckeye fan, Ryan Day getting redemption. Did he need this to overshadow losing to Michigan 4 straight years? And I know I keep bringing it up, and it's funny. You hear this, people that don't live in Ohio or Michigan, they just shake their head when they think, they're going to win a national championship. That doesn't matter. Michigan didn't, Michigan's not there. Well, it does matter. There is that certain level of fans that will never be satisfied. You could lose to Michigan 5 straight years and win 5 straight national championships, and they're going to say, well, we didn't beat Michigan. And it's the same way here in the state of Michigan. You talk to a lot of Michigan fans. They don't like to beat they don't like to lose to Ohio State. Yes, they don't like to lose to Michigan State either, but that Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, has been such just a blood-curdling, just a nasty rivalry for so long that, some people will still begrudge Ryan Day for not winning that game, which to me is ridiculous. Now, I know last year, if Michigan would have lost to Ohio State, I don't know if they would have got into the playoff with the 4-team format. But in this current format, if you lose in this rivalry game, if you've got a good record, you're still in. In a 12-team format, if Michigan and Ohio State, let's say they both go into the game, I don't know, 10-1. They're going to get in. It was proven. But I'm not going to take anything away from Ohio State. They deserve to win it. They had the best team. That loss to Michigan, I think, lit a fire under their asses big time. It was almost like us against the world mentality. And sometimes that's all it takes. And who gets credit for that right out of the chute is Ryan Day. Ryan Day, that's redemption. He gets the credit because he motivated that team. He got that talent to play. They could have tucked their tails between their legs, losing that game to Michigan and saying, you know what, we're going to get blown up. And we're going to lose to Tennessee. They could have went in there with an attitude, doubting themselves maybe a little bit. But they proved everybody wrong. Now, I thought on paper they had a pretty good shot. I had a feeling they were better than Oregon. I mean, to me, they were. And so, I wasn't surprised that they beat Oregon. Not at all. Because I watched Oregon play Penn State. They couldn't stop Penn State in that Big Ten championship game. And, with all due respect, Philly Pete, I know you're a Penn State guy. You're an alum. I get it. But we saw what Penn State and Ohio State did. I just thought Ohio State was just a little bit better. And if Oregon couldn't stop them, I couldn't see how they could stop Ohio State, and they did. So God bless Ohio State. They're the national champions. They get to wear the championship crown. Now the Big Ten, they're the king of the mountains right now. They have taken that crown away from the SEC. And I don't care what anybody says. The SEC could say it was a fluke, maybe after last year. But 2 years in a row where the Big Ten has handled the SEC in the college football playoffs, they are the kings. And until the SEC can take back that crown, they have the right to say it. The SEC got bulldozed. Tennessee got knocked out. Texas got knocked out. Alabama didn't make it. Georgia lost to Notre Dame. There you go. The Big Ten is, They're the kings of the mountain. They proved it. Notre Dame, what's next for them? You hear all this talk about Marcus Freeman maybe getting a NFL coaching job if he won. He's young. I think he still has something to prove. And with Notre Dame, I'm going to tell you right now, and I know I've said it before, they have a decided advantage in not playing in a conference. Yeah, I know they're loosely affiliated with the ACC when it comes to football. They only have to play 5 games. I mean, until they're mandated to go into a conference and they get, they're going to get away with playing this easy schedule. I mean, I'm not saying this is the reason why they lost to Ohio State, because it's not, because they beat Georgia. They beat Indiana. But I mean, I don't know. They're going to have to go 11-1 every year to get in. I mean, they beat a USC team that to me is overrated. So, but they played well. Riley Leonard played well, almost making the comeback. But a team like that is not built to make a big comeback, a serious comeback when you're down 31-7. I don't know who is, but when they get behind, they just didn't have the horses that Ohio State did. So, but hey, it was a good year for college football. I loved the playoff. Congratulations to Ohio State. They ran the gauntlet as an 8 seed. They got the home game against Tennessee. They had to win 4 games to get it, and they did it. So congratulations to them. They didn't break any rules. They got the NIL money in there. They set out and accomplished, or they did what they set out to do, and that's win the national championship. And they did. So the 12-team playoff is history, the first year. I mean, the year's history. The playoff is here to stay. The 12-team playoff is done for year 1 of it. What tweaks do you think that they need to make for the college football championship playoffs? The format. I personally like the 12-team format. I think eventually they're going to go to 16 teams because, money's going to dictate it. TV networks are going to want it. I like the format. The only thing that I would tweak is reseeding after the opening round. And possibly not giving conference champions an automatic bye. I mean, that to me would be the only difference that I would make in the 12-team format. I think conference champions should get in because something's got to be said for either the conference championship game or winning your conference outright. But let's face it, Boise State was not a top 4 team. Arizona State was not a top 4 team. They did nothing to cement that. I know Arizona State gave Texas all they wanted, but I mean, you got to reseed it somehow because you are rewarding teams that didn't win their conference championship game. They had easier paths to get to the semifinals. I mean, Penn State and Texas, 2 examples right there. The easier paths to get in. So I think they got to reseed after the opening round. Love the first round games at the home sites, on the campuses. If there was a way they could do the first 2 rounds that way, that'd be amazing. But you're going to have the conference bowls that are aligned. I get all that. If they go to 16 teams, maybe do the first 2 rounds at home sites. Make an Alabama go up to, Michigan or to Penn State, or make Michigan go down to Florida or wherever, go out to USC or whatever, should USC ever make it. That's what I want to see. That's what I'd love to see. I loved the format of having them at the home barns, the history of the places they went to this year, Notre Dame, Ohio State, just to name the first 2. I mean, Texas, that was cool to see. Penn State, blue bloods for the most part getting, opening round matchups. Yeah, Pete, I said blue bloods. They're all blue bloods. Texas is a blue blood. Michigan's a blue blood. Ohio State's a blue blood. There's a dozen of them. That's an argument we can have for another time. But I think that's all they really need to tweak is do the first round buys and, reseed maybe after the first round. A conference champion does not automatically get a first round bye. They can still make the tournament. They could be a 10 seed. Yeah. So that's just kind of my feeling on that. So, all right, we got a few minutes left. I wanted to get in on this. We talked about Ben Johnson getting the job at Chicago. God bless him for that. $13 million a year, by the way. That's 3 times what they're paying Dan Campbell in Detroit. God bless Chicago. Good luck, as we mentioned, with those 2 teams, with Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson getting their head coaching gigs. Hall of Fame vote was announced. Ichiro, Billy Wagner, CC Sabathia, they get in. Ichiro, 99.7% of the vote. I don't know why he wasn't unanimous is beyond me. And here's my thing on this. I just want to mention this, okay? There's only been one person that has gotten a unanimous vote in the Hall of Fame, and that's Mariano Rivera. And I'm sorry, Mariano Rivera is not the greatest basketball or baseball player of all time. And he's the only one that got a unanimous vote. Why? And I know why some people will not vote Ichiro in or Derek Jeter or whoever. That should get unanimous because they figure that he's going to get enough votes and they want their guy to get in. And that's the flaw of the vote. That's why this voting system is flawed. And the other thing that I don't like about this voting system is you're grandfathered in. You have guys that vote for this that have not been to a baseball game in 20 years. They're like me. They see it on the internet. They'll catch a score, might look at a box score. It's seriously flawed, and I just have a real issue with that. The Baseball Writers Association I love baseball, but that part that's got to change. So congratulations to them. And, we'll talk more about that next week. Speaking of that, I want to bring this up for the last couple of minutes because we've got some big news here on the show. Starting next week and every other week, we're going to have an old friend of 12 Ounce Sports come back to be a co-host on the show. You may have remembered the Burn with Mitch Bernstein. He used to have a podcast here on Tuesday nights. It was a lead-in to the Captain Lou Extravaganza a few years back. Mitch reached out to me a while back and he said, hey, I want to get back into podcasting, but I don't want to do it full-time and I want to be a co-host. So we talked yesterday, and starting next Wednesday, the Burn with Mitch is going to be back. We're going to expand our show to an hour and a half. We're going to go from 7 to 8:30, and Mitch is going to come on for the first half of the show. He's going to bring his guests that he gets. We're going to talk mainly baseball. We'll talk a little football, obviously. If his Eagles are in the Super Bowl, we'll rehash that a little bit. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame next week and about the voting in the system and all that. Get his views on it. He's a baseball purist. He's a baseball guy from way back. So excited to have Mitch back on the show. He's going to be part of the network starting next week, 7 to 8:30. We're going to promote the heck out of it. So we're going to expand our show as of right now from 7 to 8:30 Wednesday nights to Captain Lou Extravaganza with Mitch Bernstein along with us. Who knows? We might tweak the name of the show a little bit. We got to give Mitch his due because he's going to bring a wealth of knowledge and just a lot of wisdom to the show, and can't wait for that. All right, everybody, that's going to do it here for the show. The hour's flown by as it always does. I want to thank all of you for welcoming us into your homes, on your computers, your televisions, your iPhones, however you watch us around the world right here on 12 Ounce Sports. Check us out on our YouTube channel and on our Roku channel on your smart TV 24/7. That is 12 Ounce Sports and the Captain Lou Extravaganza. 2 shows next week. The ACHA Power Play. We're going to have a loaded broadcast next Tuesday night. Can't wait for that. We're going to have some great guests talk about the World Tournament over in Italy as well. That was a great showing by the USA men's team. They ended up in 4th place. The women's team ended up in 5th place. A great showing over there. And Wednesday, we're going to have the Super Bowl set for you, the big game. We'll talk all about that and more. We'll have Mitch Bernstein with us, as I mentioned. Stick around for that. All right, everybody. Just a reminder, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving. And as always, keep your minds open. So long, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Captain Lou Extravaganza on 12 Ounce Sports.